Sometimes you find yourself in situations that you just don't want to be in.
Gus Malzahn probably don't know what to do with that. So the transfer portal is absolutely heating up, and it gives us a really good chance to revisit two stories that we talked about a lot on this channel this season. One of those, Thomas Castellanos stepping away from the team after getting benched and entering the transfer portal, as well as the dumpster fire that was Florida State football. Now, these two stories are going on a gosh dang crash course decision collision right now, as the 5'8" Kyler Murray comped type player who had a pretty decent campaign coming out in the first few games at Boston College and honestly impressed a lot of people, finds himself in a situation where Florida State really needs to figure something out when it comes to quarterback, because nobody wants to keep DJU for another year. So today we're going to take a peek at some of the losses for Florida State, because I think they lost the future, in the clear and obvious future at quarterback, and that says a lot of how they want to move, and especially with Gus Malzahn being there and Thomas Castellanos a history with Gus Malzahn in that type of offense he ran with KJ Jefferson and UCF and Dylan Gabriel. It makes it even that much more easier. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that big loss, the losses in general in Florida State, and we'll hear Mike Norvell's take on the whole situation with Florida State. But hey, man, I appreciate the support on these videos, man. I've been dropping new things. We're going to be heading into the offseason after bowl season, son, after the playoffs and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of different things. I'm going to be trying different stuff. If you have any ideas, any type of videos you want, I appreciate y'all's comments. I'll try some stuff. Like this video if you like it, dislike if you don't like it, subscribe if you enjoy it, man. Let's hop right into it. So just a brief refresher. Remember that Thomas Castellanos was a gentleman who stepped away from this team after being benched. He announced that he was going to go ahead and enter the transfer portal. Now, the big story, wow, that's loud. The big story here is that the head coach at Boston College is Billy O'Brien. And I have to stop before we go any further, because a lot of my phenomenal subscribers reminded me in my comment section of the first video I made about the situation. Bill O'Brien is one of the most diabolically evil people when it comes to organizational structure. He might be a great offensive coordinator. He makes magic happen when it comes to offensive side of the ball. But when it comes to, I don't know, possibly being the GM of your Houston Texans team and trading away DeAndre Hopkins for a pack of peanuts, yeah, just hypothetically, he does terrible things and, you know, maybe puts your organization in a 5-year hole that they just now got out of, except CJ Stroud. Anyway, focus back on college football. So with that being said, I think it's clear to see that some people might be like, is there something else going on here? Is it not just, hey, a guy that wasn't playing well and got benched and didn't want to stick it out? I have to remiss and relinquish on some of my points, and I would have to admit that I don't know everything that happened. I don't think we got anything else more information to go against or go positive for that. So for as the time being, I have to say, hey, maybe y'all are right. I'm not trusting Bill O'Brien though. So I no longer say he's a quitter. Right, I just think the circumstances. Whoa, the circumstances just seem a little weird, seem a little off from both ends. So it's a bad scenario. But here we are today, right? He sat out some weeks ago. This was back in November, right? He stepped away from the team, took a second away. Now he's in the transfer portal. Now with him in the transfer portal, he has been predicted to go to Florida State. Now, that's all fine. That's dandy. Like I talked to you, Gus Malzahn is now the offensive coordinator for Florida State, in which Mike Norvell seems to be firmly planted as a Florida State helm and captain. But I think losing the big bad Luke Kromenhoek, I can't pronounce his name, dog. Kromenhoek, the true freshman out of Benedict Military School in Savannah, Georgia. As a transfer, he's a 4-star. As a prospect, he was also a 4-star. He is one of the top-ranked quarterbacks in the transfer. I believe he's the number 3 ranked transfer. We're going to do another separate video about the top-ranked quarterbacks in the transfer. But this kid is legit, right? Remember, he was throwing to these Florida State receivers that didn't catch footballs for a majority of the year, and he was throwing beautiful footballs, and he's a true freshman in which Brock Glenn was supposed to be the real true backup, but he just wasn't ready. I think the lights were too bright for him. But the fact that you had a true freshman looking phenomenal, standing big in the pocket, he was doing some great stuff. The fact that you lost him, that makes me a little concerned. But it, again, like I alluded to, Gus Malzahn probably don't know what to do with that. So, like, in our reality, I hate it. I hate that you lose a young talent, and I think that dude's going to be a slinger. Like, someone's going to go get him. I think a Duke is going to go get him. I think maybe a Stanford, one of those Northeast teams. He's got a little bit of wiggle. He's got enough athleticism. I think he can do good at an Ohio team. I think he's a Big Ten level talent too. So, I think we can find a way to kind of make things move and make things shake, or he can because he's clearly a talented guy. But other than that, other negatives, obviously a lot leaving for the Florida State, like I alluded to when I showed you the whole palette, and we're gonna go deeper into this because it's a lot. But before we go deeper into that, this is how Mark Norvell's outlook on it. I think this was literally 3 days ago in a press conference. So let's hear about it.
It's going to look much different next year. Do you already have an idea of what it's going to look like? And as far as like the young players that you really like and are excited about, do you already know how? Do you feel good about how many of them are going to stay, or have you had those conversations?
I mean, it's the question that keeps getting asked, like for 6 weeks. Well, who's going to stay? Who's going to, like, at the end of the day, like, I mean, yes, kids can transfer. It's not a secret. So if and ultimately, if you have a bad season, if you don't, things don't go the way you want. If your first instinct is just to run and go, I got to get away from that. Well, you're not. We signed up for this together, and guess what? We're all a part of it. The players that are here, the coaches, we all were a part of what this season was, right? And ultimately, I mean, we all have to take accountability. Well, what are you going to do to fix it? It's easy to leave. It's easy to quit. It's human nature. That's what everybody wants to do. And you know what? If that's what's going to be the driving force, let me go find an easier situation to go jump myself into. Good luck. You're probably not going to fulfill the things that you are capable of. We've had guys that have left here before, and a lot of them thought they were going to go to some great situation and some much better place. And you know what? I usually get a call back a year later, seeing if they can come back. Right, even throughout this year, for as bad as we've been, I mean, I totally understand that. But you know what? I'll watch these guys work. I do, and there's not been a time where our guys have pulled back and not worked. Now, has it been as disciplined? Has it been as detailed? Have we been able to translate that to the field? No, we have not. That's why there's a full scope evaluation. But yes, do I talk to our players about what it's going to look like moving forward? Absolutely. And I try to go as far from sugarcoating it as possible so they know exactly how hard it's going to be and exactly how challenging we're going to push to go get this right. And if that scares them off, so be it. But I'm not one of them has pulled back. Right? And, there's all different circumstances in college football nowadays. And you know what? They can, it's going to be out there. If they're quick to leave, then they're probably not going to be the difference maker that we need, right, to be able to get through all that where we are right now. And I've got a lot of confidence in this group, and I got a confidence because I am around them. I'm around them a ton, and you know what? Some guys, we got some players that didn't even play this year. I think will be contributors this next season. I mean, they need time, and they need, there's the guys that played this year that, man, honestly, I didn't really want them to play this year because I knew that there would be some challenges of what it had to, but they got thrown into it and they had to grow through it. And, it's just one of those parts of life that sometimes you find yourself in situations that you just don't want to be in, but you get to make the choice to go pour everything that you have to be the best that you can be. And we'll learn from it. We'll grow from it. And, obviously, as anybody that we're going to be recruiting, well, I'm going to let them know exactly what to expect too. Just like we did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when guys came into this program and said, "That's what I want to be a part of. That's what I want to be. I want to be that spark. I want to be somebody that's going to stand up and you'll be able to help guide through what was an extremely challenging season."
And not to cut Mike off, but I can clearly see that there's a lot of passion from him, right? And a lot more passion than I'm not gonna say that we've seen this season because I think I've seen this, but I think it's good to see that after a season like that he had, he's still speaking with some passion, right? I think that's important. I think that's the reason why he's still the head coach, right? Because I don't think there could be any other way for him to be the head coach if it wasn't the same situation, right? And the fact that he seems to be approaching it in a different way is good to see. So going back on Thomas Castellanos and, of course, a Florida State transfer. So I think Thomas Castellanos wanting to fix a plan, he's a Band-Aid on something that needs to be fixed, right? Thomas Castellanos was way better in 2023 with a more favorable offense, including bowl. Year 2, he was 2,000 yards passing, 57%, 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 1,100 rushing yards, 5.2 yards per carry. His 2021 was 1,539, 62%, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 530 rushing yards, 4 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. I'm not really sure where we're banking there. So 2023, we've got 950 yards rushing. Head coach hired that wanted to move Jalen Milroe to head to wide receiver. 194 yards rushing. Perhaps he may eat in Gus's offense. JT-ish. Now when he says JT-ish, Jordan Travis. That's who he's. Okay, sorry. So many JTs. So he's alluding to Jordan Travis in that situation. But yeah, just to close the door when it specifically talks about Castellanos, like I said a lot about him. I think maybe when things, really fit into place, maybe we're a little too harsh on him, and maybe he'll have an option here. So the full storyline, again, he was at UCF. Right, and he was enrolled in 2022, transferred in 23, stayed the full year at Boston College, and then went to another year. And that's what I think leads more credence, because obviously I learned more as I got into, through the year. It's like, okay, well, he's the guy that started a full year. He started a full year, then came into this year, and apparently some craziness happened. He gets benched, and then he's completely out of there. So I do think there's more to this story. There has to be. And, of course, a 99 for 161. Sorry, yeah. 161, 99 for 161. Wait, which? I don't know. Math. 61.5 completion percentage, 1366. And that was how many games? How many games played? How many games did you play? I can't check. I want to see how many games he played, because it was like November when he stopped. So he played. My God, he played. I thought it was like halfway through the season. This is not. This is like 3/4 through the season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 games in. 8 games in. He was like, I'm up out of there. Which I don't blame him. As you can see, kind of they started off hot. The win against Florida State, which everybody thought Florida State was going to be somebody. 62 completion, 10 for 16, 16, 28, 249, 57 here. Again, that was, I don't even know how to pronounce them. The Dukes. Mizzou. You lose to Mizzou, which seems a lot more sadder now. But at the time, that was supposed to be a top-ranked offense, 6th-ranked team in the nation, right? Close loss with 2 interceptions here. And then, obviously, he gets benched in here in this little situation right here. Obviously, when you go 17 for 36, 65% completion, 46, and then 28% completion for 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions here, hey? Took care of the ball there, but 130, 157, and then this was 2 for 7, and then you had 1 interception, 1 touch. Like, it's just the effectiveness was slowing down. You get benched, his backup comes in. I guess he felt like the door was closed at that point, and the door was about closed on the season too at this point too. So it's an interesting way to look at it. But going to a place like Florida State is interesting, who's losing my man McCormick, because they are in a mass exodus mode. Now the transfer portal is wide open, right? We're only like 2 or 3 days in, but obviously we talked about my man Luke. I am very fond of him. Pause. I just think he can sling it down the yard. But then you have, the Dylan McNamara's redshirt sophomore. You got your DeMarco Wards, your Jarrell Powers, your Omar Grahams, your Bryant Courtney's, can't pronounce that, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Lamont Green, Darian Williamson. It's a lot, dog. It's a lot. It's a large number of people in this transfer portal, and I think that the number is only going to grow. Let's see if, Florida State can avoid the problem they did last time and putting all their faith in what seems to be a mediocre quarterback, and hope that he can make something happen. I hope he's your Jordan Travis and not your DJU, because you're going to need a lot of faith there. But if y'all like these videos, please leave a like on it. If you don't like it, dislike on it. Subscribe if you enjoy college football content and everything else in between, man. We'll see you next.